Hi, hello, don't go and harass anyone mentioned in the video. Two, this is my first time doing this kind of thing, so I'm sorry if I do not sound the best. I don't, script anything. This is not scripted. Um, I'm not a good editor either. It's just gonna be a simple speed paint from when I talk and, music in the back, whatever. Um, and I'm sorry if you hear, two, chirps in the back. I have two parakeets. I'm just gonna be talking about, the things that Synni, talks about in her video that she released as of, currently, recently. Um, so I'm not gonna go over fucking history and all that because if you're here, I'm assuming that you know who Synni is and who Jack is and everyone else in the situation. That's about it. I'm also going to shorten Synni's video, speed it up a bit, and I'm gonna be skipping some parts possibly. So keep in mind of that if some things may be missing or if it's too fast for you. It's just for my sake.
Nothing in the past week has made sense. I was completely convinced that I was a predator and a groomer and that I needed intervention. I'm realizing I might not even have a clear understanding of what grooming is. I believed I groomed a child because Jack told me I did, and I believed him because I trusted him. But Jack doesn't know what he's talking about. I made my confession under duress. I fully believed I was a groomer because Jack told me I was one, but I don't believe that anymore. I am not a groomer. I did not groom Enno.
To say that Jack doesn't know what he's talking about feels very weird to me because Jack has been groomed before. I thought you, of all people, would understand that. And he can see grooming when he sees grooming. And as someone who has also been groomed before, I can see grooming when I see grooming. It just feels like it's being worded that Jack is the only one saying that you are a groomer, when in fact it's a lot of other people. And knowing you, you have been on Twitter and you have been looking at the things that Jack has been saying by things you say later on. So, what's up with that? It's probably just me misinterpreting, but still.
It honestly feels like everyone has their own definition of what grooming is, which is so fucking dangerous. But smart people define child grooming as the act of deliberately establishing a relationship with a child to prepare them for abuse. As an action in and of itself, grooming does not have criminal penalties, but facilitation of a criminal sexual act is considered a crime. Many of you likely saw my video where I stated I groomed a minor, and I saw quite a few people point out that it's very strange. The main reason I saw was, people don't usually confess to things like this, they try to fight back against these things. But none of you questioned if what I was saying actually made sense.
I'm not gonna talk much about the grooming because Synni talks more about that later on, but I will go on about the building trust thing. Building up trust isn't always on a groomer's mind because sometimes it is just about getting attention from that person, or it's just the fact that they're getting what they want. I know one of my groomers were like that. It wasn't about building trust, it was just getting what he wanted. And more on about building up trusts with people. You can build up trusts with a lot of people by having conversations with them, whether they have been strained out from each other or constant. You can build up trust by having that, and it's more easy when you are the older one in the situation. Like now, you are 20 and you are talking to a 14-year-old, so that 14-year-old is going to look up to you because you're the adult, and to have an adult talk to you at such an age, it makes you feel happy and it makes you just have some kind of trust with them, because that is natural for people to do. When you are that young, you naturally build up to trust to people older than you. I don't have much to say on the last part of that clip. Let's just move on to the next one.
I was coaxed and guilted into a false confession by someone I loved and took care of. Someone I worked my ass off to provide a moderately comfortable lifestyle, not only for them, but for the two cats they begged me to adopt. One of which he fucking stole from my apartment.
One, Jack did not coax you into making an apology at all, as far as all of us are aware of. You would need to give a kind of situation towards us in order for us to even believe that. You can't just oh, it happened. It happened, guys. No, you don't do that. That's just a boy who cried wolf. Also, the cat thing is just a little bit funny. There's bigger issues going on other than the cat.
My conversations with Enno, while inappropriate and irresponsible, trust me, you will never fucking catch me trying to act like this was an okay thing to do. I wasn't flirting with Enno. My messages have been misinterpreted in the most bad faith and malicious manner possible. Now that I'm having to sit alone with my thoughts for the first time in a really long time, I've been able to reflect on everything. And I've realized that I was very misled by Birdie on many things regarding psychology and psychology-related subjects. I looked to Birdie for any and all information on these subjects because it was their, quote, special interest, and I figured he'd at least know more than the average dumbass. But I've started to realize that the answers he gave me on mental health subjects depended almost entirely on what was most convenient for Birdie.
Such an asshole thing to say, what?
Whenever it comes to things like that, it's different for different people, and not like every single thing that a person says will be right, even if it is like a special interest. I know I have a sort of interest in like religion, let's say, but I'm not gonna get every single detail right, you know? Like, and again, like Jack could just be using more of like personal experiences, and since this is about grooming, he's probably using his own personal experiences about grooming, being groomed online and stuff, because being groomed online and being groomed in real life can go very differently, and not everyone gets groomed the same when taking that in. It's just interesting to me, and I'm also just sort of interpreting this as like you calling Birdie stupid for this, and it's funny in a sense because what the fuck? Also, it's not always about flirting in situations of grooming. Like, siblings can even groom each other, usually like an older sibling grooming their younger sibling. That's more of an uncommon, like, known thing, but it still happens.
Here are some actual qualifiers for what constitutes as grooming, as is listed by a simple Google search. Isolation of the child, building the child's trust, inappropriate communication, which includes asking for secrets to be kept, and using sexual language that the child may not understand, and educating the child on the subject, buying gifts, giving the child special attention, singling out the child to make them feel more mature, special, or different from other children, showing particular interest in the child, victim selection, and substance misuse. I did not isolate Enno. Enno was actually already isolated when they first met me.
It's just really funny to say.
Enno has told me directly that they only ever speak to like 3 people, that being Sophia the Neko, me, and another person I don't know.
See, right there is why Enno would have shown trust in you, especially you being the adult, because they were kind of already alone and not talking to many people at all.
I never got jealous if they hung out with other people instead of me. I never told them who they could and could not hang out with. I didn't want to control who they were hanging out with. I wouldn't get upset if they didn't talk to me. The only thing I can think of that probably looked like I did is if I said something in their DMs and they took forever to respond, I would get anxious and think that I upset them somehow. I do that to everyone though. I'm just really anxious. I don't like the idea of bothering people.
I do not think the people looking at those kinds of screenshots where it is you saying, oh, I thought you were upset and stuff and this and that, of like no responses, are taking that as grooming. And if they are, that is stupid. I can understand like getting anxious when people don't respond to you either like right away and take a while to respond, because I know I get anxious. I hate bothering people. I hate being an annoyance, and I hate like sending texts first because what if I'm being annoying? What if I'm being a wreck? But that's more of a personal issue with me that I need to fix with or whatever, but like still, I can get that. I don't think people are misinterpreting those kinds of messages, Synni.
Building the child's trust. I don't think I was ever even interested in building their trust. The only thing I was ever really concerned about was making them upset or uncomfortable. In fact, it already kind of seemed like they just automatically trusted me with a lot. I didn't really have to do anything on that front. Even then, it was just never on the forefront of my mind.
This goes back to what I said earlier with like building up relationships and stuff. I don't know how much on to carry on with like the building up relationships, other than also the fact that you kind of realize that this 14-year-old already got attached to you, and you realize that, and also realize the fact that like Enno did not really talk to many people at all, and that is just upsetting to hear, and it makes me just feel like you truly still aren't seeing the full picture. It's like you're constantly avoiding it, or somewhere deep in your mind that's telling you, no, you're in the right. You're in the right for doing all of this, and it feels like that you are blaming Enno, the 14-year-old, for what you sent. It is stupid, and it is just immature thinking, in all honesty. I can't understand or see why or how, like, asking for, like, even, like, comfortability, like, oh, are you comfy? I hope I'm not making you uncomfortable. That is a 14-year-old. You are 20. Don't send or say sexual stuff, even if it's, like, not about the child, about other people. Stop. You are 20. I don't think a 20-year-old or any kind of adult should be saying that kind of stuff to a 14-year-old.
Inappropriate communication. The examples given are asking for secrets to be kept, using sexual language the child may not understand, and educating the child on the subject. I will not deny that my conversations were inappropriate and I shouldn't have been having them, like, to begin with. The only instance of me asking them to keep something a secret would be me saying to them, please don't tell the public I'm depraved. The secret's kinda just out now, I don't care anymore. I never intended to keep our relationship a secret. That was never even something I was intending to hide. It was also never my intention to educate Enno on any particular, like, sex shit. I don't know.
More of just generally saying, not really directly related to Synni, but not every, like, grooming relationship is going to be private. There are some instances where it is public. This is just more of like a food for thought. I don't know. It's all I wanted to say. I don't have much to say on like the educating part. Apologies for so.
Now that I think about it, majority of the inappropriate conversations we had revolved around sadomasochism and like sadistic fantasies, not really sex. Sex was definitely brought up, but it was never my intention to educate Enno about it.
Huh? What?
Huh? Do you hear yourself right now? Do you hear what you just said? Oh, well, we just talked about like sadomasochism a bit and like fantasies and sex time to time. Do you not hear yourself with a 14-year-old? I'm sorry. Huh?
Buying gifts or giving gifts. Didn't do that. Eno actually made like a shit ton of gifts for me, but I don't think I've ever made anything in return, which saying out loud makes me feel kind of shitty. But no, I never made any gifts for Eno. Now, I did ask them to make things for me a lot. The most inappropriate thing I think I've asked was for like a comic. I'm not gonna pretend I'm justified for doing that. No, I think it was inappropriate. Fucking weird and cringy. But everything else I can think of was mostly just ship art. Giving the child special attention. Examples given are singling out the child to make them feel more mature, special, or different from other children. The fact that I was talking to Eno at all could be seen as me giving them special attention. But not once did I ever tell them that I thought they were more mature, special, or different. The only example I can think of is toward the beginning of our conversations when I told them they were funny. But I wasn't trying to make them feel like they were different from other kids.
I can see that and I can understand that in some way, but you gotta also remember like the ages going on. Eno was 14 and you were like 20. Obviously Eno is going to see some kind of like attachment to you, especially like when Eno barely has anyone to talk to. Obviously they're gonna feel attached and obviously they're going to possibly feel special in some way.
Showing particular interest in the child. I wasn't particularly interested in Eno. In fact, I had 2 other friends who I was talking to like this, and they knew that. Cough, Kenny, cough, brother, bitch ass.
To call 2 of your ex-friends bitch asses and mention them in the way that you did is really weird and kind of immature. Especially when they really didn't do anything wrong. Especially when you literally shared one of the 2 is like kinks to the 14-year-old. That's something that is very personal to a person. You clearly do not know boundaries because you did not have boundaries like practically at all during your like conversations with Eno, and also the fact that you would constantly send private messages from Pee-wee and Synni and send them to Eno, and how you would like constantly like send private stuff from brother to Eno as well. This is mainly of just my understanding. I'm sorry if it's worded wrong, and I'm sorry if it doesn't, like, if it's not exactly correct. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Victim selection. I did not select them. In fact, they talked to me first. Substance misuse. Didn't do that. Now there's some other things that we really need to discuss when we're talking about this whole grooming situation. So firstly, I am a hetero woman. I am attracted to men, as you can see from these fucking cringy ass conversations that I had with Eno. I did not want to date Eno. I never considered that as an option. I did not reach out to Eno, and it took Eno 3 months of persistently pestering, prying, and giving me gifts before I finally gave in and spoke to them. From the start, I remained very reserved and kept Eno beyond arm's length. I wasn't super interested in talking to them until they sent me an image of me laying in bed, and I made a joke about it being inaccurate because Boy wasn't there. Once Eno started indulging in my very strong autistic infatuation with Boy, that's when I started talking a lot more. And as we kept talking, I felt a lot more comfortable sharing certain things about the character that I liked, including personal fantasies. In hindsight, I really should have filtered myself when talking to this person. Definitely should have practiced some restraint. I'm not proud of this, but it was never my intention to desensitize them or harm Eno.
Point 1 to bring up, you do not need attraction to the child in order to groom the child. It's not always about sexual or romantic attraction to it. This is kind of where I bring up the fact that there is a difference between being a predator and being a pedophile. And to be a predator is someone who ruthlessly exploits another. I believe Synni for damn sure is a predator. It doesn't make the situation any better, especially when the person that was affected was a 14-year-old. To be a predator is to not really have attraction to the person that you are exploiting, but just the fact of how you were exploiting them. And that is essentially what this entire grooming was. Obviously with like more shit into it, but you know what I mean. But yeah, you really should have filtered yourself a lot and set down some boundaries between the 2 of you, especially with the age gap going on.
That was never on my mind. I imagine that's fairly obvious if the DMs are actually read with more than 1 brain cell activated. I've been speaking to some individuals who are very critical of me, but they've been fair. They disagreed with the idea that this was grooming because one of them, who goes by Kumo, thought something was off about the evidence that was used to back up the claim. Kumo has been very critical of child predators and people who enact performative vigilante justice online for validation or personal gain.
This guy? This one right here.
What should I cut?
What?
What should I cut into me?
My name.
Really? Okay.
Bestie.
I'll do it on cam. Hold on.
Oh
Yeah, that's
my
fast.
fucking God, she's actually got it.
Yeah, that's a good friend, alright.
It was explained to me that my understanding of grooming was clearly warped, and these conversations just sounded like, I'm quoting Kumo, locker room girl talk. I myself have never been very social. I would even call myself socially inept. I'm a bit of a retard, so I never considered that there was an existing dynamic that sounded similar to my conversations. This was two girls talking about Jeremiah down the block and how hot he is. Once again, I feel the need to make this painfully clear that I am not excusing how I talk to Enno.
Yet each word that comes out of your mouth is more and more excuses of you saying that you did not groom Enno. Those feel like excuses, just partly excuses on what you said to Enno. More onto this fact, the way that you were describing it is as like it is just like some childish thing, when in fact it wasn't just some childish thing going on. You were a 20-year-old sending like sexual stuff and talking about sexual things to a 14-year-old when you were the age of 20. That is not locker girl room talk, talking about Jeremiah down the street and how hot and sexy he is. There was more to it, especially when you're talking about like fucking sadomasochism to a 14-year-old when you are 20. This is not locker girl room talk, dude. That feels like an excuse or just joking about it, even if not meaning to.
It was inappropriate, it was irresponsible, it was negligent, and I shouldn't have done it. I regret it a lot. I should have made the responsible choice and stopped these conversations before they even happened. But I know for a fact that this was not grooming. None of the previous qualifiers can be found in my DMs with Enno, because I did not groom Enno. My therapist doesn't even think I groomed Enno. And the obvious rebuttals to that could be, well, we don't know what Synni was saying to the therapist. What reason do I even have to lie at this point? I came into their office specifically saying I believed I groomed a child, and then after telling them all the details, they don't think that what I did was actually grooming.
I asked my friend, like, about his opinion on this and, like, his thoughts, and what he said. I think it's funny that the grooming, manipulative, obsessed loser thinks that she would gain anything by lying to her therapist when lying to a therapist would make her feel better, thus gaining comfort. I've also heard from, like, other people that their therapists were wrong about a person being groomed, or just were wrong of telling that the groomer wasn't a groomer, if that makes sense at all. But that's just from what I have seen.
Jack has decided to ride the wave of this controversy to accuse me of sexual assault. But I think anyone listening to what Jack said should be able to recognize that what actually happened is he retracted his consent long after what happened. Which is not only disheartening, but I believe constitutes slander. As someone who has been sexually abused in the past, as a child, the fact that he's so comfortable weaponizing our consensual touching not only makes me unholy levels of pissed off, but also makes me feel extremely heartbroken. Jack is someone I trusted and cared for and loved unconditionally for nearly a year, and he's willing to lie and deceive with clear intentions of ruining my life. I have been labeled a child predator, I've been framed as a sexual deviant, described and implied to be a violent degenerate, and an aggressive rapist.
No one's calling you a rapist, but we are calling you a predator, because you are one by definition. I'll talk more about like the touching stuff like later on, because Synni talks more into that.
Jack and I had lived together for about 9 months, and in that time we established a friendship with boundaries still being discovered. I deliberately asked Jack if the things I was doing were okay, and Jack said they were. I was not under the impression that Jack was not comfortable or even unhappy with these silly acts of poking and squishing. Had Jack communicated to me as such, I would have stopped and apologized profusely. Given the nature of our friendship and the level of intimacy we shared, I half-jokingly asked Jack to sit on my face while clothed, to which he politely declined, and I respected their answer. This was out of morbid curiosity, and honestly, that shit was gay as fuck. I'm just a girl. Het guys have similar humors and dynamics to my understanding. I've seen what the homies get up to, and it's all in good fun to call them gay and tease about it, but being curious isn't indicative of someone's orientation and preference. TLDR, Jack has grossly misinterpreted our relationship in a manner that really fucking hurts, dude.
Sometimes people can misinterpret those kinds of things into another thing. A lot of the time, it happens a lot. Jack probably, and most likely with the way he worded it in his video, did not see it as just this silly thing. More on about the touching stuff, you can ask one time about something and have it be a yes, but not every single time that you continue to do that thing will be a yes.
Jack's GoFundMe is a scam and it's slanderous. Jack's selling point on the GoFundMe that raised over $10,000 in like 3 days was that he didn't feel safe living with me anymore. As if I'm some sort of evil, deranged, violent rapist that was gonna groom Jack next for saying awful shit about me in the next room.
That is a very fair and very valid reaction to have when you are horribly traumatized by groomers and predators and shit, dude. Those aren't fears that you can like really control at all, and that in itself can be scary because it can lead to overthinking, and overthinking is never really good because you're not in the right mind space. And plus, just in a general speaking sense, when people have these fears and start to overthink, they start to overreact as well and start having worse thoughts. That is just naturally what happens when that kind of thing happens to you.
Ironic, considering I was a fucking sobbing mess on the couch, laying in the fetal position, breaking down over the awful shit that he said to me. Jack was not financially independent, but neither am I. I occasionally had to rely on Jack's social security to make ends meet and maintain our lifestyle and security. Jack made a little under $1,000 each month from his benefits. Jack was unemployed and hardly attempted to make any income through commissions. For the 9 months we stayed together, I would say that half of that time I was paying rent in full. We moved in November, and Jack hadn't considered splitting rent until February. I had to beg Jack to pay only a third of rent with their social security, and he tried to refuse. That would be a total of a little under $300 a month out of the money that was meant to go toward things like rent. I don't think Jack even understands what that money was granted to him for. For the final 2 to 3 months that Jack was staying here, Jack was no longer receiving social security due to him not attending a court hearing, meaning Jack stayed in my apartment rent-free in the time that he had the audacity to pull this shit. I paid for the food. Jack being autistic requires some pricey and specialty items to be constantly in stock, so this was more than just feeding 2 people and 2 cats. Jack's only bill, aside from the third of rent, was the internet, which checked out to be $45 a month. Jack's social security is what secured this apartment. Jack has asked their viewers, in light of grooming allegations of a 14-year-old, for their money to enable them to ditch their living situation and leave me to handle all the loss, stealing one of the pets that I own and pay the medical bills for, that I fed and took care of.
Jack can't work because of his disabilities. Also, how Jack said that he did do that. He did pay what he needed to pay. Also, the way that you're just wording everything with, Jack being very disabled to where he just is going to be more expensive because of that, you're making it sound like you're shaming him for that, something that he can't control, and that is just weird. In general, it just feels like in some way it is just shaming him for his disabilities in that sense. This is financial abuse. Her using her weaponized incompetence against Jack with rent, cats, and special needs items, and that is just so weird and gross. More on about the money stuff. Jack had an SSI, meaning that he was not allowed to save up money, and literally what Jack said on Twitter was that Jack gave Synni $300 to hold on to save for later, but when asked to give it back, now, it's just withholding it, and when asked by other people, she just ignores them. So, just taking money, essentially, especially when, you kind of agreed to give it back to Jack. I just thought to mention that.
To make matters worse, Jack has tried to ruin my life in many different avenues. Jack has isolated me from my only real-life friends and socially engineered my coworkers against me. Jack has made a public spectacle about this and ruined my reputation, to the point that my family heard about it. My fucking brother heard about the situation at school. Jack has gone on Twitter and wished me more than death. I will go more in depth on that later, but he's publicly celebrating my downfall and interacting with people who make art depicting violent and cruel acts on me. And he and everyone else feels justified doing this shit because pedos are bad. Speaking of, the fact that he feels so comfortable calling me a pedophile when he knows what I've been through and he knows how I respond to those topics is driving me up a fucking wall. He should know damn well that I'm not a pedo. He is way too flippant using this life-ruining word. It's disgusting. I have learned in light of this situation that I have been surrounded by the most deluded and dishonest lunatics I've ever met. A group of people that are part of a wider issue, where you can say or do the most heinous acts to someone, so long as you call them a bad person beforehand. Whether they are or not seems to be debated after the fact. My confession was false, and the people who reacted thought twice and clearly wanted it to be true. They remarked that something didn't seem right, but didn't bother to question the legitimacy of the allegations and the confession. If I pulled the DM logs of Turkey Tom when he was 18 to 19, I have to wonder what I could find. If I did the same to Deadwing Dork, Chud Logic, Sofa Neko, I have to wonder. If we dug through every interaction you've ever had online, would there suddenly be more incentive to be nuanced and open-minded? Because those aren't even the things I asked for. I'm being represented in terribly bad faith, and I'd be surprised if anyone listed really believes they've never said or done anything that could be used against them in this manner. For those plugging their ears, I have to wonder how you would fare if you were the target.
I feel like Jack should tell people that you groomed a child, because that is what you did. You groomed a child. I think he should tell people so that they are aware that, hey, Synni fucking groomed a child and is now doing all this shit to me. If he's also including the fact that you literally threatened to kill Jack, I know that could have also been from a mental breakdown, but that is still fucked to say. Also, the fact that you kind of needed to be talked out of from crashing a car one time while you were with Jack. Jack had to convince you not to crash the car. That's not good. That's not okay. That's weird. You need professional help. You need to get off the internet, because I can clearly tell, and everyone else can clearly tell that yeah, it's fucking you over a lot, especially with what Jack is saying. Also, victims can become what happened to them. That's all I have to say for that part.
As long as we're all still here, I would like to talk about Jack's video that he made about me. He's the one who brought the situation to the public. He made a lot of points in his video, and I have a lot to say about them. I'm gonna be going more in depth on the things that Jack complained about in his video. I'd like to just get started. Jack's behavior throughout this situation has been really fucking strange, and I have to question what his motivation was, both in this situation and honestly in our friendship. I'm not sure why he felt like he needed $10,000 from a GoFundMe just to get away from me. That's a shit ton of money. Maybe it's for a fresh start, but it feels a bit exploitative. It feels strange to make a video educating people about someone you believe to be a predator and then ask for a shit ton of money that isn't even meant to help the victim. I feel like he could have asked for enough to buy a plane ticket and a few months of food. Even then, I'm thinking about how we spent 4 days in Seattle for vacation, and Jack's family was exceptionally generous. His aunt let us sleep on her couch for those 4 days, and his grandparents each gave us hundreds of dollars just to shop in Seattle, as well as paying for our plane tickets to and from Seattle. But I heard the aunt suggesting Jack ask his papa for expensive gifts because he's likely to buy them for him. If Jack needed money, I feel like he could ask his grandparents for help. Plus, his aunt went to fucking law school. She could probably help him find affordable housing under the guise that Jack is too disabled to work. I feel like his family would be more than likely to help him since Jack keeps framing the situation as an emergency. He needs to get away from City Bro 3 right now!
That entire thing is just so weird to me. I'm sorry. To ask that kind of thing is very strange because you do realize it's very expensive to buy a new house entirely, especially when you don't have a job and you're just not able to get one. It's so expensive to live nowadays, especially if you are disabled. It makes everything so much harder. He has to pay for rent and bills, he has to pay for his food, he has to pay for veterinarian bills. He has to pay for so much, and he has to pay for his own needs as well. To also go on and be like, why can't Jack just ask his family for help, especially when they were so insistent on giving us money during the time in Seattle together? Like, you fucking dimwit. No, Jack is not gonna go to people that fucking abused him his entire life. How do you not? I thought you, of all people, would be able to see that. He was abused his entire life by these people. And you're like, why can't you just go to them? They were so nice. Did you know that abusers pretend to be nice? I feel like you should know this. And even then, if they're actually being nice, why would Jack want to go to people that have fucking abused him for something like this? They could most likely take advantage of it. Like so in the past, they did not care about his living situation in the past. He made a whole video about this. What? I feel like this shouldn't be a thing that I have to like speak up on or like just talk about, but I do, and that feels so like fucking stupid to me, dude.
I've also seen plenty of people questioning the use of the panty and stocking designs on his GoFundMe page. I actually asked him that too, because he showed me the page when he made it. I asked why he was using a picture of the two of us, and his explanation was that he just threw it all together. I didn't push any further. I saw a lot of people also pointing out that it was weird to include the panty and stocking animation. I kind of agree. It's strange that in the video where you're warning everyone about Synni 3, the predator, the freak.
I'm not a freak, I'm like Synni.
You include an animation of me dancing on a stripper pole and taking off my panties.
Yes, that is a little weird, but it's not entirely that big of a deal in my personal opinion. It's just something small that is whatever. Like Jack said, it was made just in a rush most likely. I don't know, that is just whatever to me personally. I will go on to say that like the reason Jack included the like animation that he was making was because he didn't want it to go to waste. He says that. I feel like a lot of people would. Especially, I can see how much effort was put into it.
Jack claims I sexually assaulted him, which is just not fucking true. In his video, he shows a screenshot of me losing my mind over the fact that he was saying I assaulted him.
The use of language here feels just very manipulative, and I don't like that. It feels manipulative because you keep saying I hate you, and you hate me, and I know you hate me, I wanna fucking die. I fucking hate being alive. Like, I understand being visibly upset by this, but it just feels manipulative in the end to say all this. By the way, I'm gonna talk about the boy stuff later.
This, plus the fact that Jack admits to consenting to me touching him, should have tipped y'all off that he was talking out of his ass.
Touching back on Synni's like sexual assault towards me, I'd like to preface this by saying this is gonna get kind of graphic, so I'm sorry. On a daily basis, she like makes comments on my ass, like how big and squishy it is, and how she wants a boyfriend with an ass like mine, and she would constantly slap it and grab it. And I'm gonna be honest, I consented to this because I've never had an IRL friend before, and I didn't know what kind of touching was and wasn't okay. And like, I also consented to her like touching my boobs, and like I guess like this stuff was fine because I consented to it, but there's stuff that she did that I didn't consent to. Like she would often poke me like in the ass or like on my crotch and like make jokes about fingering me, and like I told her not to do this, and I said no multiple times, and I would even like scream if she did it, but she did it even as recently as like a few nights ago, I think. I still have my doubts about like my feelings about this because like with that thing I didn't continue to say no, and I confronted Synni about this, and she said she thought I was joking when I said no, which I have a recording of, but I'll I'll show the recording later.
I included the entire Jack clip because it literally just answers what I would have probably said if Synni did not include the clip. Like, he admits that he's not even sure about this dude. I don't think it was him talking out of his ass. I think it was him just trying to mention it because it feels important to mention, especially with the situation going on at hand.
Yes, I did make a lot of comments about Jack's ass and how big and squishy it is. I've smacked him on the ass, I've grabbed his ass, I've even used his ass as a pillow. I've played with his breasts, and I've always asked if what I was doing bothered him or made him uncomfortable, and he's always said he doesn't mind. He doesn't care. It's fine. He says he didn't consent to me poking him in the ass or in the crotch, which I have to say, I don't know if he ever made it explicitly clear that he didn't like me poking him in the ass, and I do genuinely feel bad if I was making him uncomfortable by doing that. I say in the recording he took of me, by the way, I had no fucking idea I was being recorded. I tell him I thought he was joking when he told me no. There's a lot of things that I do to Jack expecting a specific reaction because he makes funny noises. I would often grab his face and squish it in my hand and he'd make a murr sound, and I thought it was funny. I would hold his nose closed, and when I let go he would inhale really hard. Funny. I'd pinch his double chin and he'd say, "Oh, my gizzard." Funny. When I poked him in the ass, he would scream. Not a guttural scream like it would be easy for me to assume that he was scared or upset. It was like a silly scream like, "Ah! Ah!" Last time I remember doing this though, he didn't react at all. He was playing with Swerp on the cat tree and I poked him in the ass and he didn't react. He just kept playing with the cat. He didn't even flinch. How am I supposed to know that you don't like what I'm doing if you don't tell me? If you told me before, then it wasn't really clear. You gotta be explicit with me. I'm autistic. I'm stupid.
That entire segment there is just a little weird to me. I don't know. I just think that it's a little weird, especially with the situation that is going on right now. Also, a thing that I learned about people with schizophrenia or who are, like, psychotic, they can't really express their emotions very well. So you'll respond to things with, like, small noises instead of, like, actual things.
He says I poked him in the crotch, and I have two memories of doing this, and both times I immediately apologized afterwards. I poked him in the gents on accident because I was trying to poke him in the ass and I went too low, and he told me, "You poked me in the veg." And I apologized profusely and stressed that I didn't mean to. I poked him in the pubic area once and then immediately asked if it was okay to do that, and to be frank, I don't actually have a clear memory of this response. I don't know why. This isn't something I do regularly. That's why I had to question if I actually did that in the recording.
She would often poke me like in the ass or like on my crotch and like make jokes about fingering me and like
Sometimes when I poked him in the ass, I would say, "Star finger," because I thought it was funny. He brings up the fact that I asked him to sit on my face. I do understand if he's upset that I would ask him to do this. It's a sexual situation in nature, and he declined for that reason. If Jack doesn't like that I was willing to ask him to do that, he has every right to be upset. What he doesn't have the right to do is revoke his consent of me touching him and claiming I sexually assaulted him just because he doesn't like me anymore. That's pussy shit.
That's pussy shit. Girl, why the fuck you joking around, even if it's like slightly? Come on.
I honestly don't have much to say about this because I'm probably just gonna repeat myself from last time. He did not see it the same way as you did.
and I'm gonna be honest, I consented to this because I've never had an idol friend before. I didn't know what kind of touching was and wasn't okay.
My brother in Christ, you are an adult. You choose what touching is okay. There is no rule book.
This is gonna be fucking bonkers to hear, dude, but Jack was assaulted. I know that's like a huge discovery that everyone is awing over. Like, I feel like you should understand this, Synni. I feel like you should understand that, like, him being, like, assaulted would lead to him not understanding what to do in future situations that could be similar. Again, you should understand this.
Jack admits in his video to not looking over the evidence, which just irks me, dude. Your best friend is being accused of a bunch of shit, and you can't be bothered to look over any of it, or even fucking get someone else to look over it for you. The original Addressing Synni Bureau 3 document is a fucking joke. I'll get to it when I get to it. But the information he got from me directly about the doc was me ranting about some of the dumbass points I saw while I skimmed through it while I was at work. There are some things that are definitely worth criticizing me for, and I'll get to those, but most of it was so unbelievably stupid. If you started to doubt me, why not have someone else relay the information to you at least? Like, what about Laurel? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I should be responsible for relaying this information to you, especially when I was at fucking work when this was happening. You gotta find this shit out on your own.
Ooh, you work me!
Look, I'm just saying, Jack went to you about this first because, hey, these are some serious allegations going on, so why not go to you,
Especially since like you two are like really good friends, or were really good friends, for fuck's sakes.
Oh, no, I have not been mooching off of Synni. I've actually, like, I've helped pay rent every month. I've helped pay for groceries. I've given Synni money for gas. I've paid for a lot of her things. Like, I have not been mooching off of her, but
I was not mooching off of Synni is a wild statement considering how much I was doing for you. We were living together for almost half a year, and I would say half that time you were staying in my apartment rent-free. The first 2 months we lived together, I was paying the rent in full, and I had to fucking plead with you to pay 1/3 of the rent. Not half rent. I offered Jack pay 1/3 of the rent because his benefits paid him half of what I get paid. I had to fucking drag it out of you, and you whined about it. You haven't paid rent for the past 2 months because your benefits were revoked. I cook, I clean the apartment, I do the dishes, I do the laundry. You sometimes clean the litter boxes when I ask you to. I drive you to your appointments. I pay for your medicine. I take you on car rides when you're sad. I buy you ice cream every week.
I buy you ice cream every week. There's actually no fucking way to.
This is not even like the first time I've laughed at this, dude. I've laughed at this like multiple times. Well, I got you ice cream every week. And then be like, I got you ice cream, so your depression won't like swallow you whole. That's what I hear basically.
This shit is so stupid. I'm fucking losing it. Not even just that, like, oh, I take you on car rides when you're sad. Look, I'm just saying Jack had some reasonable reasons to be concerned about paying bills, but like, I can understand being mad about that and irritated. That's understanding. But the ice cream thing is still a little funny. Also, a thing that I noticed, like, with people with autism, I have autism, but I've noticed that, like, with my friend, it's hard to have priorities, even, like, with stuff like that. It can be hard. With, like, a bunch of mental issues going on, I would assume it makes it harder to get on with priorities.
I have to fucking bribe you with ice cream so you'll get out of bed and go to Social Security to try to get your benefits back. I was taking care of you, and it's fucking wild that you have the audacity to paint me as a monster and call me a pedophile when you should know that isn't fucking true. I've always been by your side, as long as you were willing to get better. I stood by your side when the internet still hated you and thought you were a groomer. I stood by you when you threw over the Borderline 12 shooting memorial. I am heartbroken that you threw away our friendship as soon as it wasn't easy being my friend, when I have done everything for you. You are a fucking coward. Not only would I call you a moocher, you're also a thief. You stole my jewelry, the fake nails that our mutual bought for me, and you took our fucking cat when you don't have stable housing. I genuinely believe you should bring Squirt back to my apartment because you cannot take care of her on your own. You can't even take care of yourself. This isn't me being malicious and trying to take your cat from you because I'm upset with you. I don't think you can take care of her. And if you try to make the argument that I forgot to feed her a couple times when I left for work, I knew that they would be okay if I didn't feed them as soon as I got up because you were always home. I have to work all day while you sit on your ass at home and draw. You also begged me to get these cats. You should be willing to contribute to taking care of them by feeding them and cleaning up after them, especially when you're always home.
I don't think it was the fact that it wasn't easy being your friend now. I think it's because you're a predator, a groomer. Dude, and this is not even the first time. You've done similar stuff like this beforehand. And the more and more I see people talk about this, the more things I find out that you were talking to more people of underage, right? And like also being weird with them. Also, I think he's gonna be able to get like stable housing, like with the money that he was donated from the GoFundMe. Though I can completely understand, like, being worried about the cat, that is just a reasonable thing. You sit on your ass at home and draw. It's probably for, like, commissions? I don't know, though. You know, that could just be me.
Jack brings up my obsession with Boy. Let's talk about Boy. Something that keeps getting brought up is the fact that I'm simping over a minor's character. Okay, who fucking cares? The character is an adult. That is what matters. Sock is uncomfortable with how I'm using Boy. They blocked me. I don't care. I think I've made it very clear in the leaked DMs that I think Sock is way too sensitive when it comes to their characters. I think it's insanely stupid to post your characters online and then get upset when people get invested in your work.
You made a rape comic.
Not even just that fact, but a rape comic of Sock's characters. Thought it was just an unspoken rule on the internet, or like anywhere, that if this character belongs to a minor, that you don't say weird shit about it because it belongs to a minor. Then you gotta remember your own age sometimes.
Not allowing people to ship your characters, ship themselves with your characters, make headcanons for your characters, kin your characters when you're posting them to the internet where everyone can see them is fucking ridiculous. Just try and control the internet. You will fail. I am tired of acting like she has any say over my creative freedom and self-expression. She blocked me so she doesn't have to see my art. That should be good enough for her. The only people hurting her are the ones who go out of their way to show her the things that I've drawn. Watch me continue to have beef with Sock.clip.
Oh, just try and control the internet. You'll fail, but like, you can still follow boundaries. People still can be uncomfortable. I think that's just a stupid argument to have. Especially when you would constantly sexualize their OCs.
Before I get into my biggest concern, here's some smaller critiques that Jack had about me. He had an issue with me talking about sex AIs in my 13+ server. This is actually something I believe was a problem. I shouldn't have talked about it in my server. That was irresponsible and cringe. And you know what? Someone did actually DM me saying that I shouldn't have been doing that, and I agreed with them and didn't do it again. I believe I contemplated making like a public apology within the server, but my mods told me not to. I don't have any evidence of this because the server was deleted and I didn't know how to export the files. So take what I say with a poke in the ass. Boop. Jack says it would have been better if my server was 16+, and I will be honest, I don't know about that. You'd prefer if I was talking to 16-year-olds about which bots I can fuck? See, Jack is under the impression that 16+ is an appropriate label for sexual content, and I was under that impression too for the longest time. I think it's because the animation art community often use 16+ on sexual or suggestive content, and that's the community we grew up with. Realistically, it's still weird. Why even take a chance at the age stuff, honestly? If I ever make another Discord server, it is going to be 18+ with precautions to prove your age. This shit is annoying. Jack was upset that I was sexting an AI bot while he was laying on top of me. I wasn't like touching myself or anything, but to be honest, I can see why this would upset him. I'm not gonna act like Jack was being irrational by getting upset that I was sexting an AI bot when he's trying to spend time with me.
Yes!
The one good thing you've said, yes!
I do find it weird that he's upset that I would hide my DMs from him. He pushed to see my DMs at some points and I didn't want to show it to him. He admits that he knows I talk sexually with a lot of my friends, so I don't know why he didn't just drop it, especially when he's hidden his DMs from me when he was talking to his partner or even to Laurel. It's a strange thing to complain about.
I don't feel safe here anymore after learning what happened.
I completely understand if my actions have made Jack trust me less, and he doesn't want to support me. I'm annoyed because I did that for him, but I'm not entitled to his presence in my life. I think it's odd that Jack insists that he's in danger to some extent by staying with me. Do you think I'm gonna get you? Do you think I'm gonna hurt you? Genuinely, how are you in danger by staying with me? I've established how what I did wasn't sexual assault. You don't get to revoke your consent. It really feels like he's making the situation about himself. Literally nothing he's done has been in the interest of protecting Enno. And a lot of his behavior has actually put Enno in danger. Not only does he and Sophia not censor Enno's name in their videos like I was trying to do in mine, Jack included Enno in a section in his video, and he leaves in her Discord tag so any random motherfucker can contact them. Anyone! If that's not bad enough, the document that shares our DMs, the one that Jack made Enno make for his video to come out, it doesn't just expose my kinks and fetishes. You're exposing that Enno likes this shit too, because Enno can be seen responding positively to a lot of this. People can use this information to prey on Enno. Enno would have been kept safer if this entire situation was handled privately. Jack. Not only that, but Jack has caused people to attempt to contact Enno's parents, which freaked them the fuck out. None of this is being handled responsibly. Nothing he's doing is helping the supposed victim. I don't think he even really cares, if I'm being completely honest.
I don't have much to say about that entire clip I just showed, but I will say that it could have been like curiosity or just, I don't know, probably a little bit of worriment. Now I'm gonna go on and say that I cut out like this entire section of the video because I don't have anything to comment on. I don't have anything to say because it is just worriment and more of explaining instead of like saying. But I can comment of just stay off of Twitter, stay off of maybe the internet for a bit, at least most social medias. I have a paranoia-filled like mental breakdown because of what Jack is posting. I genuinely believe that you should just stay off of Twitter. Take a break from it. Like, uninstall the app. Get off of it from your, like, applications. Please. Again, I'm not gonna show that entire clip. Like, it's long. I cut out, like, a big chunk of it because, again, I have nothing to say. I have nothing to comment on. Nothing. Other than what I just said now. But there are still some clips to go through. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Hang on there. It's okay.
I know he has borderline personality disorder, so I really hope that this is just him splitting on me, and maybe later down the line he'll come to his senses and realize that I'm not the monster he's saying I am. That could just be hopeful thinking, but I do know that borderline personality disorder causes you to think in black and white. He thought I was the most amazing person ever, and now he thinks I'm the worst. I hope it changes. I want my friend back.
I'm sorry. What? What do you mean? I hope it's just him splitting. I know BPD can make you see in black and white, but shut the fuck up! I fucking hate, like, the fact that I have learned from this situation that my friends with BPD have been told that maybe they'll come to their senses for splitting, and that feels really fucking weird to me. Don't say shit like that. Don't ever say shit like that. What the fuck?
I think it'd be ridiculous to come out of this situation still thinking it'd be a good idea to put myself in spaces that are mostly occupied by children. I can see that I have a huge issue filtering myself in these spaces, and I have theories as to why that is. I grew up in a community where adults and children made sexual content that was mostly consumed by children. I've always had friends who I was sexual with ever since I was in elementary school, so I've gotten used to having relationships where I share intimate details with them. I've talked sexually with my fans when I myself was a minor still, and I think my brain never recognized that as an issue, nor did I recognize that my collective audience wasn't growing up at the same rate as I was. When I was a child, my audience was around my age. Now I'm 21 and my audience has grown too, but it's still mostly children, and I think I have trouble comprehending that when I speak in public spaces. These reasons and theories do not excuse what I've done. I think the best solution would just be to put myself in spaces with other adults and not let this become a problem again. I gotta stop talking to people under 18, whether I think they're funny and fun to talk to or not. I'm still going to at least take a break from my social media. I don't think it'd be good for me to immediately come back. It doesn't feel right. I don't expect my video to change everyone's mind and make people think I'm a good person. I don't even think I'm a good person. But I'm not a predator. And to be as clear as humanly possible, all these changes that I'm making are for me. Not for Jack. Not for you. I want to make an effort to be better. But I don't owe you shit. My name is Synni 3. Baka baka.
I don't have much to say for that outro part, honestly, other than, like, that's a good choice. But I do think you should stay off of the internet, and I really want you to get help. Well, this is my video. This took absolutely, like, forever it feels to edit this at all. That's it for this. Goodbye. Have a nice day. Stay safe. Have boundaries with people. Bye-bye. Also, I just want you to know that the video was originally called My Response Part 1, like she was gonna make multiple parts. Okay, bye!